Akira Toriyama is best known for his genre-defining manga Dragon Ball. But before he was known for the big buff fighting man series, he was a comedy mangaka. When he tried to break into the manga industry, he sent in a one-shot for a rookie competition. However, this manga, Wonder Island, ended up last in viewer surveys. Toriyama, too stubborn to end it on a loss, tried and tried again and eventually landed on Dr. Slump. Dr. Slump was a huge success and turned Akira Toriyama into a household name within the magazine. He even won several awards with this series, but that wasn't even his final form. However, Toriyama wanted to end Dr. Slump 6 months after publishing, but his publisher only allowed that if he had a replacement series ready. After again trying several one-shots, these one-shots eventually led to the creation of a 2-part one-shot called Dragon Boy. In 1984, it was adopted into a series and called Dragon Ball. At first in a similar vein as Dr. Slump, Dragon Ball was a comedy manga, but with a bit of kung fu influence as Toriyama was really into that stuff. It was only after the first fighting tournament arc that Dragon Ball found its place, toning down the comedy significantly and focusing more on martial arts, eventually evolving and escalating to the point where the main character Goku battles demon kings, aliens, cosmic beings, and in its sequel series, literal gods. Dragon Ball became the blueprint of action manga, not just in Shonen Jump, but every single shonen magazine, thanks to his unique cast of characters, amazing paneling and incredible action choreography. Also, Dragon Ball helped popularizing anime in the West, thanks to the anime adaptation of the second half of Dragon Ball, known as Dragon Ball Z. However, its sequel series, while being overseen by Akira Toriyama, was written and drawn by Toyo Taro. No, Toriyama wasn't writing Dragon Ball after it finished in 1995. He was working with video game companies like Square and Enix, designing some of the best looking RPGs like Dragon Quest and Chrono Trigger, or creating short stories like Kowa, Kajika, or Sandland, that recently got its own anime and video game. The first time Toriyama added to the Dragon Ball canon after it finished in 1995 was with the 2012 film Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods, that kickstarted the sequel film Resurrection F and the earlier mentioned sequel manga Dragon Ball Super. After mostly a hand-loose approach with Dragon Ball, it was eventually revealed that Toriyama was working on a side story called Dragon Ball Daima. Sadly, Toriyama would never see the series release as he passed away March 28, 2024. Eiichiro Oda is best known for his story One Piece and is a multi-award winning mangaka. He started at age 17 with his work Wanted, a cowboy-inspired manga that got him noticed by Weekly Shonen Jump. He started working as the assistant to Shinobu Katani and Masaya Tokihiro for 2 years, and at age 19 he became the assistant of Nobuhiro Watsuki and assisted with the manga Rurouni Kenshin. It was during his time with Watsuki that Oda drew 2 pirate-themed one-shots by the name Romance Dawn. One was posted in Akamaru Jump and the second was posted in Weekly Shonen Jump. Then by 1997 Oda evolved his work from the Romance Dawn one-shot, used the main character and created his still ongoing masterpiece, One Piece. One Piece's popularity stems from Oda's unique art style, great world building and simple but engaging goal for the main character, to be the Pirate King in a world dominated by pirates and marines. And one thing that keeps being brought up is Oda's ability to foreshadow ideas way back and execute them years if not decades later, either using an amazing foresight and planning or an ability of being able to look back at his older work and just referencing empty comments from back then and making them make sense in the current context. It honestly doesn't matter which way he does it, as it is impressive both ways. One Piece went on to become one of the big 3. The 3 most popular manga and anime in the West, together with Naruto and Bleach. He became the best-selling mangaka in history. Oda ended up marrying actress and gravure model Chiaki Inaba, who he met during a live-action stage play show of One Piece, Inaba playing Nami. Outside of his manga, Oda has also been involved with the One Piece anime movies from Strong World onward, and the Netflix live-action adaptation of One Piece as well. Yoshihiro Togashi has been making manga for a long time and didn't just stop after creating one iconic series, he made 2. His first story published by Shueisha is I'm Not Afraid of the Wolf, a collection of short comedy series. He then went on to write an ill-tempered Cupid in Heaven that was a 4-volume romance between a human boy and a devil, until finally in 1990 he decided to start Yu Yu Hakusho, combining his interest of the occult and horror movies, as it started out as a supernatural slice-of-life comedy series, but eventually turned into one of the most popular battle mangas to ever exist, reinventing how tournament arcs are written. After finishing Yu Yu Hakusho, he started working on Level E, a sci-fi comedy manga that only lasted 3 volumes. And after finishing Level E, he came back to the genre that he helped revolutionize, with Hunter x Hunter. A wildly beloved series thanks to its interesting characters, unique plot lines and groundbreaking power system that is still being hailed as one of the best. Hunter x Hunter went on to invent the non-standardized test characters need to partake to reach a goal in their career. In Hunter x Hunter's case, it was the Hunter's exam. During the starting years of Hunter x Hunter, Togashi met the creator of Sailor Moon, Naoko Takeuchi, someone who will later come up in this video as well, who after meeting at a party helped Togashi with adding screen tone to Hunter x Hunter, and shortly after in 1999 they got married. However, after 2 decades, Hunter x Hunter is still ongoing, mostly due to the chronic back issues Togashi has been suffering from for several years now, causing the manga to be in a repeated and constant state of hiatus. Recently, he announced that he is still working on the manga, but doing it at his own pace. Akasaka is the relatively new mangaka in the grand scheme of things, and especially among most creators here. He started out as a background assets designer of the visual novel Wonderful Every Day, and after being an assistant of several mangakas, he finally had his first serialized work published, IB Instant Bullet. Sadly, this series was cut short by the publisher. This fate wouldn't be shared by the next work, Kaguya-sama Love is War, a manga that breathed new life into the rom-com genre that by many accounts was getting stale at this point. Instead of solving the will they won't they dynamic, he just amped it up to 11 and made it some romantic mind game manga. And instead of ending it when they got together, the series continued. Now as he MCs as a wholesome cute couple doing things together instead of against each other. Akasaka's style of explaining all sorts of concepts within the pages of his manga became a staple and something he went on to replicate with Oshinoko. That instead of being a rom-com in high school is a drama about the entertainment industry, something which Aka has a lot of experience with working in that same industry. So his explanations just went on to become more and more interesting in this series. However, Oshinoko marked the point where Akasaka stopped doing art and focused on the stories instead, having other artists draw for him. In the case of Oshinoko, it was Mango Yokiori. Aka likes to also run multiple series at the same time. During the last arc of Kaguya, he started Oshinoko. And after Kaguya was finished and while deep into Oshinoko, he started Renai Daiko. Sadly, third time wasn't a charm as Renai Daiko was cancelled after only a year. One is a next-gen manga artist who started his career online by posting short versions of One Punch Man on the website Shintosha. Afterwards, he continued posting chapters for his One Punch Man series irregularly, mostly as a way to practice drawing. However, this drawing exercise became quite popular in Japan. So popular in fact that famous mangaka Yosuke Murata reached out to One to first release 2 one-shot mangas as a writer-artist duo, and eventually they made a remake of One Punch Man. As Murata was redrawing the One Punch Man manga that One already has created several chapters for, One was busy with the next project, that eventually came to be known as Mob Psycho 100. After 5 years of publishing, Mob Psycho came to a natural end and was finished on One's own terms. While One was still co-writing One Punch Man with Murata, he also started publishing webcomic chapters as well, and eventually started a new series with the artist Bosse. This new title is called Versus. One's way of storytelling is quite unique, as he likes to make the main character already the strongest in the world before the story even starts, with both One Punch Man and Mob Psycho 100. And to a lesser extent Versus as well. Thanks to this setting, the struggle is barely ever about just defeating the big bad and more about facing your inner problems. Kentaro Miura is the mangaka behind the legendary manga Berserk, known for its dark themes and godly art style. Working briefly as the assistant of George Morikawa, Miura surpassed anything Morikawa could teach him, saying that the 18-year-old Miura artistic level was already of that high of a degree. After several attempts of getting his own work published, like NOA and King of the Wolves, Miura eventually came out with Berserk. Berserk became hugely popular that even garnered Miura the Tezuka Osama Cultural Prize, one of the most prestigious mangaka awards in Japan. Berserk quickly rose to become one of the most popular and highest rated manga ever, thanks to its compelling story and characters, the emotional impact and depth, and the most notable that people who haven't even read the manga can agree with, the amazing art. While Berserk was still ongoing, Miura also worked on other projects, like his manga Japan, or his involvement with the 25-episode anime adaptation of Berserk, as well as the Sword of Berserk Dreamcast video game. Despite the popularity of Berserk, or maybe because of it, Berserk wasn't a regular manga. It more often than not was on a hiatus, partly due to Miura's perfectionism, but also due to his own health issues. Eventually those health issues proven too much, as Kentaro Miura passed away in 2021, leaving Berserk unfinished. Rumiko Takahashi is the most successful female mangaka to have ever picked up a pen. Takahashi started off with a one-shot in 1978. That one-shot then evolved into her first serialization as Urusei Yatsura, a comedic science fiction story that introduced the world of anime and manga to the first waifu named Lam. Her second major series, Mason Ikoku, was published no longer in a shoujo manga but in a seinen manga, as seinen became more inclusive to female writers. She was doing both Urusei Yatsura and Mason Ikoku at the same time, adding them both in 1987, so she could start her third series, Ranma 1/2, following the 1980s trend of martial arts manga with this time a gender-bent twist. And if you by any chance saw my glomping video, this manga is also the originator of the term glomp. Ranma 1/2 and its anime adaptation are some of the first Japanese manga and anime that found an audience in the US. During the latter half in 1990s, Takahashi continued with several short stories and her installments of the manga of Mermaid Saga and One Pound Gospel, until beginning her fourth major work, Inuyasha. That, in contrast to her previous work that was mostly cute and bubbly, was much darker in tone. Inuyasha ran from 1996 until 2008, but Takahashi wasn't done yet, as she started another manga in 2009 called Rin Ne. While not being as big as her previous work, it's still quite popular compared to most other people's work. And if you think that is her last work, well, think again, because after finishing it in 2017, it took her 2 years to start a manga again called Mao. And it doesn't seem as age slowed her down one bit, as Mao seems to be equally as popular and loved as her previous works. Osamu Tezuka, also known as the father of manga, has a library too vast to just describe quickly. So let's go to the biggest of big hits, or else this video will be 10 hours long. As Disney-inspired illustrator Tezuka, who at age 17 published his first professional work, Diary of Machan, that was serialized in the elementary school children's newspaper Shokukumin Shinban in 1946. Afterwards, while Tezuka was still in medical school, he published his first masterpiece, a trilogy of science fiction epics called Lost World, Metropolis and Next World. After the success with the sci-fi trilogy, he released Kimba the White Lion, a manga series that many have claimed to have inspired the animated Disney film Lion King, though there was never anything officially said about that from either side. As Tezuka was advancing himself into a mangaka stardom, he hasn't even reached his peak yet, as the precursor of most famous manga was just about to release as Ambassador Adam, that showed the market potential of the humanoid robot character named Adam, that eventually shaped itself into a series that focused purely on that character called Totsuwan Atom, also known in the West as Astro Boy. The Astro Boy anime was one of the most important animation that shaped the anime industry into what it is today. But even with the fame and acclaim he got from Astro Boy, Tezuka wasn't finished yet. Since Astro Boy was so popular for the young boy market, he came up with Princess Knight, which was aimed for little girls, and became equally as popular for them as Astro Boy did for boys. In 1954, Tezuka created what he called his life's work, named Phoenix. Phoenix consists out of 12 parts, each of which telling a separate self-contained story of a different place and era. As the age of the manga readers grew, so too grew these stories, with Gekika, comics created for adult men, started to take off in Japan in the late 60s. Tezuka was one of the people who jumped on board of that train. Tezuka began adjusting his art style to fit his more mature and serious tone, and eventually ended up creating stories for seinen manga like Blackjack, Buddha, Dororo and many more. After several decades of making some of the best manga the world has ever seen, Tezuka came to pass away. Even as he was dying, being brought to the hospital, his last words being, "I'm begging you, let me work." The legacy of Tezuka was every single manga created afterwards, and to celebrate those works, 2 different awards were created. The first is the Tezuka Award, that was created and overseen by Tezuka himself in 1971, celebrating new manga artists in story manga category. After the death of Tezuka, the main judges have switched around, with as of 2023 containing some famous mangakas such as Eiichiro Oda, Kohei Horikoshi, Kazue Kato and Gege Akutami. The second one is a little bit more prestigious. It was called the Tezuka Osamu Cultural Prize, created posthumously in 1997, to award outstanding mangakas who follow Osamu Tezuka's approach to creating mangas. Several of the mangakas in this video have won the latter of these awards. Hiromu Arakawa is best known for her groundbreaking manga Full Metal Alchemist, whose anime adaptation would be rated as one of the best of all time. Arakawa started off as an independent doujinshi artist and mostly drew 4-panel comics. After moving to Tokyo, she started working for Square Enix, being an assistant to Hiroyuki Eto. After gaining experience as an assistant, she dabbled in making her own one-shot, by the name of Stray Dog, that won the 9th 21st Century Shonen Gengan Award. Shortly after, in 2001, she published the first chapter of her first serialized manga, Full Metal Alchemist. This went on to be a huge success, shooting Arakawa's fame into the stratosphere, winning her multiple awards. Many people complimented her on her ability to cover dark subjects in such a lighthearted manner and art style, and actually making it work. Arakawa also worked together closely with the second anime adaptation of Full Metal Alchemist, showing the directors her plan for the ending so that they could end the anime and manga at the same time. She continued working and creating new mangas after the success of Full Metal Alchemist, sadly none reaching the same level of fame as her first serialized work. Takehiko Inoue has created some of the best mangas in history, but also struggles to finish them. Inoue started as an assistant to Tetsuko Hojo, who was working on City Hunter at the time. In 1988, he published his first one-shot in Weekly Shonen Jump, winning the 35th Tezuka Award. A year later, he started his first manga series with Slam Dunk, to become a world success, selling over 170 million copies, winning Inoue several awards, and, on top of that, even the Japan Basketball Association thanked Inoue for popularizing the sport in Japan. Inoue then attempted a webcomic with Buzzer Beater in 1996, after finishing up Slam Dunk. He then decided to go back to regular magazine manga, but instead of a sport manga, like he did last time, Inoue decided to do a historical manga instead, creating the acclaimed manga Vagabond. Vagabond, just like Slam Dunk, became a huge hit among readers and critics alike, even receiving the Osamu Tezuka Cultural Award in 2002. However, while Vagabond was still ongoing, Inoue decided to start another manga, Real, a wheelchair basketball manga, and just like his previous 2 works, received many praise and awards. Inoue was batting 3 for 3 and he was now working on 2 manga at the same time, while also taking on different jobs like creating characters for the game Lost Odyssey or painting images for folding door frames for a Buddhist leader. And in 2005, Vagabond started its indefinite hiatus. Real was also on hiatus from 2014 until 2020, but right now is being picked up again by Inoue himself. While the 3 stories might not be very similar, while one standing out significantly more than the other, the 3 all share identical highlights, with strong character development and relatable storytelling that is visualized with high quality yet unique artwork. Junji Ito is best known for his horror manga. He started drawing manga at the age of 4. Ito also was already enticed by horror stories, reading stuff like Mommy Teacher from Kazuo Emezu. But after hearing that the Emezu Award was established and being judged by Emezu himself, Ito sent in a one-shot called Tommy, and ended up becoming the start of his long career, releasing multiple horror one-shots a year belonging to different series, like the Tomo series belonging to his original one-shot, while others are just horror collections. As they're all one-shots, I can't talk about every single one of them, but let's mention a couple of the big ones in chronological order. Uzumaki is probably Junji Ito's most well-known work, with the infamous Spiral Woman image being instantly recognizable as Junji Ito, hence why even I used it. Uzumaki was also very acclaimed outside of Japan, being nominated twice for an Eisner Award, getting a top 10 placement or mention in a lot of official top lists in the West. However, even though Uzumaki didn't win him any Eisner Awards, one of the most prestigious comic awards in the world, he did win several ones later on in 2019 for his adaptation of Frankenstein. And in 2021, he got 2 for Remina and Venus in the Blind Spot, and 2022 for Love Sickness. However, aside from Uzumaki, his biggest work is undoubtedly Gyo, which also gained positive reaction from overseas market, being nominated for International Comics Festival. Ito's masterful ability to use facial expression to convey fear, uneasiness and creepiness, along with detailed and disturbing environmental rendering that give reasons to the fear and unease, makes his work stand out, especially as it juxtaposes the mundane with the insane, making it all feel like every one of these stories could happen in real life. Takao Saito is a world record holder and best known for his longest running series Go-Go 13. As someone who liked to draw in his spare time, Saito created a manga called Baron Air. It took him several years of rewriting and editing before it was officially published in 1956. Quitting his previous job, Saito started focusing on manga creation. After moving to Tokyo, Saito co-founded Gegika Gobo with several other artists, in order to spread Gegika, to them the next evolution in Japanese comics. His first mainstream title was 007, a manga adaptation of Ian Fleming's James Bond novel. After getting a taste of writing Secret Agent Gegika with 007, he started Go-Go 13 in 1968. In 2013, Saito said that the manga has continued so long that it is no longer property of the author. It now belongs to the readers. Saito remained the main author of Go-Go 13 for 53 years, until he passed away in 2021. However, this wasn't the end for Go-Go 13, as Saito wished the series continued even after his death. Go-Go 13 as an episodic series has somehow continued to stay relevant throughout the entire run, under Saito's supervision. He also introduced the spy genre to Japan and made it his own for the next 50 years. Go Nagai is best known for pioneering about every genre that became popular in the 20th century. After Nagai suffered from severe diarrhea in his final year of university, thinking he was dying, he decided to rethink his life choices and leave one singular mark of himself on this planet, preferable in a way that he liked to do since he was a child: drawing manga. After finding out the diarrhea was just simple inflammation of the intestine and was told that he'd be fine, Nagai had already made up his mind. So he quit school in his last year and started working on his dream as mangaka. His mother, however, wasn't happy young Nagai quit his school to pursue this career as mangaka, and secretly convinced the publishers to reject the stories her son was sending in. However, Nagai's work was eventually noticed by Weekly Shonen Sunday and began working as an assistant to Shotaro Ishinomori. His first solo works were entirely one-shot gag comedy manga. However, this would change with Shameless School, the first time someone introduced eroticism into modern manga, and became the pioneer of all ecchi manga that came afterwards. While Shameless School was still quite mild by today's standards, back in 1968, this caused an outrage in Japan, as it depicted both teachers and students in school as lecherous people ogling at women. Luckily, this criticism didn't end Nagai's career, and after some few years and several manga attempts later, he decided to make another genre-defining manga by the name of Mazinger Z. Pioneering the controller is inside the robot, while also defining super robot genre forward. And even though he didn't create a new genre while Nagai was working on Mazinger Z, he also worked on his greatest manga, Devilman. However, Nagai couldn't go long without introducing something new to the manga world, so after finishing up Devilman, Nagai started a sequel series named Violence Jack. With this series, he created the first post-apocalyptic manga that ended up inspiring great mangas like Fist of the North Star, and by some accounts even influenced Mad Max. Seeing his popularity with the male audience, Nagai decided to delve into a fresh new genre and created Cutie Honey, one of the first magical girls that became a big inspiration to many magical girl manga afterwards, especially Sailor Moon. Naoko Takeuchi is the mangaka who is best known for her work on the manga Sailor Moon. When Takeuchi was a child, her school uniform was a seifuku, a school uniform based on Western sailors. During that time, she also joined the astronomy and manga clubs at school. Her first work wasn't Sailor Moon, however, but Love Call, that she submitted to Kodansha and received the Nakayoshi New Artist Award. As she continued creating one-shots, she then created her first series, Maria, that was loosely based on the Gene Webster novel Daddy Longlegs. After finishing Maria, Takeuchi moved on to create the Cherry Project, an ice skating series that ran in Nakayoshi from 1990 to 1991. While she was working on this series, she had an idea for a manga about outer space and girl fighters, by combining 3 of her childhood memories of seifuku, manga and astronomy. This idea led to the one-shot codename Sailor V, which began a serialization in Run Run. When Toei Animation decided to adapt her manga into an anime, Takeuchi expanded on Sailor V by adding 4 other superheroines, laying the groundwork for what would become Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon began serialization in 1991 and became an instant hit, ending it after a 6-year run that was adapted in 200-episode anime, 3 animated movies, numerous games and wide-ranging merchandise. As she finished Sailor Moon, Takeuchi started a new series called PQ Angels. This gained a fair amount of popularity but was cancelled after Kodansha lost 7 pages of the manuscript. She left Kodansha and decided to work for a rival publishing company, Shueisha. Around this time, Takeuchi met Togashi, the mangaka of Hunter x Hunter, at a party. Takeuchi helped Togashi with adding screen tone to Hunter x Hunter, and shortly after, in 1999, they got married. While working on other smaller projects, Takeuchi mostly focused on future releases of Sailor Moon media like Sailor Moon Crystal, the Eternal movies and Cosmos. Naoki Urasawa is a mangaka that was inspired by Osamu Tezuka, not realizing that he eventually became the Tezuka of his era. However, as a child, Urasawa thought manga creation was just a pipe dream, and that creating successful manga isn't the same as making good manga, so he instead got a degree in economics. Though still with a lot of love for manga, he decided to apply for a business job at Shogakukan. Though as he had created some mangas in the past, he decided to bring them out of curiosity to show them how much he loved the industry. An editor from Weekly Shonen Sunday didn't give Urasawa the time of day, but a head editor at the Big Comic Original, one of the silent manga of the publisher, happened to walk by and felt that the stories would fit greatly within the weekly seinen magazine Big Comic spirit. Urasawa eventually decided to submit his manga for the 1982 New Manga Artist Award, which he won. But his manga was never published. After winning his award, Urasawa finally thought about becoming a professional manga artist. A year afterwards, he met Tokashi Nagasaki, who would become Urasawa's lifelong editor and collaborator. His first work was called Beta, a one-shot that was shortly followed by the short series Dancing Policeman in the next year. However, it wasn't until a year after that his first big story was published, Pineapple Army, which Urasawa did the art for, while the story was done by Kazuyo Kuro. Since it was a monthly manga, and since Urasawa only handled the art, he had time on working on another story while also drawing Pineapple Army. In 1986, he started Yawara, which garnered him awards and was adapted into a live-action film several years later. Urasawa continued doing the writer-artist combo manga and solo project for a few times over, until Urasawa began his first masterpiece, Monster, in 1994. This earned him the Tezuka Ultima Cultural Prize, bringing Urasawa not just national but international acclaim. So he started working on his second masterpiece, 20th Century Boys, that earned him several more manga awards. After finishing in 2006, a sequel called 21st Century Boys began in 2007, being only 2 volumes long. While he was working on 20th Century Boys, Urasawa began a modern adaptation of Astro Boy's Greatest Robot on Earth arc, called Pluto. It was serialized in Big Comic Original and ran from 2003 to 2009. This story caused Urasawa to earn his second Tezuka Ultima Cultural Prize, making him the only individual to achieve this distinction. His next work was the equally promising Billy Bat. While not earning him any extra acclaim, it was still regarded as one of his bests. As Urasawa continued writing stories, none have blown up like the way the previous 4 stories have. Currently he is working on Asadora, but when he isn't creating his manga, he's busy creating his very own music, as Urasawa mentioned that every artist struggles between wanting to become a rock star or a manga artist. So he decided to become both.